This is a pan pastels tutorial for beginners. I've just chosen a very, very simple photo that I took over the local country park of a couple of rather young trees. Yeah, nice and simple. So I'm going to paint it the size it is, which makes things easier. So I'm just going to measure across to get my points to draw from. So that's going to be the bottom, that's going to be the top. I normally paint on an easel, using an easel, but I thought this would be a good way of showing you what I do. I'll just measure the width. So the width there is 15. I'll just measure that there. And then I'll just put rough. I'm not going for perfection, so I'll just put my outside lines in. This just makes it easier to get proportions correct. Not that it really matters with a landscape, but so I'm going to go across like that for the bigger tree, and I'd say it's probably halfway. We'll stick that there, and then the other little tree sits slightly higher up and is about a quarter, less than a quarter of the way across, about there. On top of the tree and the top of the little tree there. This just makes it easier to get everything in the correct place. So we'll just quickly measure that. So 5, because perspective and proportions aren't that easy when you're beginning. 4. This is how I do most of my drawings, and when I'm drawing horses and dogs I use the same technique, except I might want to multiply up to twice the size. So so that little tree next to it. So now, so we've got to, if I just do the shape of this tree first, so we just want basic shapes. Little trunk there. No detail at all, just, and then the other little tree which has been blown by the wind, I think, looking at it. I think it was very, very wet over there, and you can see it's winter from these other trees, but for some reason these still has a bit of greenery on them. This is just practice. It's not particularly exciting subject or topic. And then you've got the horizon line, which is somewhere around there. And there is a sort of basic rule where you follow, I mean, I've cropped the photo to follow the rule of thirds, which is you want your main points to be, because I've got 2 trees, it doesn't matter that that one's in the middle, but the 2 together are kind of on that third line. So it's rule of thirds. So if you've got your horizon on the third, or you can have your horizon up in that top third. So that's a basic rule of thumb there. Right, so we've got some shapes of trees on the horizon. Just put those in roughly. Again there. Slightly through there. I'm going to put this shadow in. That's going up to there, because shadows are very important to get the depth of your depth of field showing. Another shadow of that little tree going there. We won't worry too much about these other little trees. This is just to basically show you the basics of the landscape and how I lay down the pan pastels. I've already chosen my paper as a sort of a light to mid-tone, or mid to light tone rather. It's called maroon. I've no idea why. It's more like a buff colour. It's, yeah, it's a good general all-round mid-tone paper. This is the smooth side. I don't use the honeycomb side. It's awkward to work on, but the smooth side works quite well. Okay, so I've drawn my little landscape. I've chosen this one, like I said, particularly for beginners, and I've drawn in the shapes of my trees, and all I need to do now is just to show you how I put on my pan pastels. So I'm going to go for the dark colours first, and I'm going to choose this filbert shaped, I'm not sure, I think there's two different rounded end types. I'm going to use this one that's slightly thinner. So this is my piece of paper towel that I gently wipe off any excess colour on before it doesn't matter that it's stained, just wipe off and that'll be nice and clean. So I'm going to go for these shadows and the shadows on the trees first. So I'm going to go for dark green and extra dark purple. I think it's extra dark. Let me just check. Yeah, violet extra dark. And the green is chrome oxide green extra dark. Okay. So I'm going to load the applicator with both those. And then I'm going to go in on the darkest areas. We'll just do, see how that looks, a bit more green. Okay, so that's reasonably dark. Just put the little tree trunk in there. I normally use a maul stick because my arm's not that steady, so it's an awkward, a little bit awkward for me the way I'm doing this, but it'll give you an idea of how I use the pan pastels. Put this shadow in. And I can always go over top with different colours. I can darken with black if I want to. That's actually a bit of a lighter blue showing up over there, so I can lighten that up in a minute. Probably use my Payne's grey. Let's get that. So we've got Payne's grey tint, which is my go-to if I want to just reduce the intensity of something. I'll do a little bit of blue and some Payne's grey in there. So you can see that comes out nice and cool. Bit of blue in it as well. So it doesn't matter with a landscape if you're not getting everything perfect, because it's not essential. Okay, and then we put that little tree trunk there is actually a shade of brown, so I'll leave that for a minute. Just get these dark shapes in. I like to mix green and purple because I see a lot of it in foliage. Dark green and purple. Oh, dark purple there. I'm going to get a different applicator and put in that little tree. So I've got burnt sienna and a little bit of that Payne's grey, just to take I'm going to have to lean on there, but that's in roughly for now. Carry on with my green. There's some shapes there. I'm going to keep going over this, and as you can see, the areas that aren't in shadow, I can always go back and reinstate these dark areas later. My greener areas, I'm going to wipe that off, and I'm going to use, I've got some chromium oxide green, and I've got this bright yellow green shade, but I'm going to mix those together with possibly, it's got a slightly orangey touch, so I'm going to hang on a minute, just get that white right off. I never press too hard when I do this, just very gently. Right, so I'm going to go a little bit of the cool green, a little bit of the warm green, and I'm actually going to go a touch of burnt sienna. See what comes out. That's very olivey. That's the red of the sienna and the green together, desaturating it, making it quite olivey. But that's okay. I'm going to carry on with that. That's a bit too cool. Bit of bright orange in there. I'm going to lighten that. I have to keep bringing in new pastels. I do use a lot of colours. You can use lighting, beginning to come out a bit lighter there. So I'm just going to carry on putting in the lighter green. It doesn't matter if you're rough at this stage. If it's rough, you can always refine it later. A little bit of light, just to light, that's better. A bit more orange in there. So you see, I'm always working on the colours. So I would carry on like that until I've got the bulk of my tree, and I'm just going to do it roughly for now so I can move on. I can always come back to that. So at this stage, the pan pastel is quite easy to, and at this size, it's quite easy just to spread it around. And with a little bit of highlight there. Don't get carried away like I'm doing currently. Let's go over there and a bit of the lighter colour of that. You can mix your colours on the paper, you could mix them on the applicator. I'm just getting all the rough shapes. This tree's a little bit darker. So I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to get my round-ended applicator, just wipe off any excess different colour on there. And I'm going to come in with these trees here. So I'm seeing a purple, I'm seeing burnt sienna, so that's what I'm seeing magenta, so I'm going to go in with those. If the pans get dirty, you can wipe them with a tissue. Right, let's go in there and see what happens. That's a bit dark, so that'll do for that bit there. Go right along the horizon line. A bit of a darker one there. I want to go lighter, so I'm going to go magenta, purple and orange, see what that does. It's great to experiment. Yeah, that's coming nearer that colour. A bit more sienna. A little bit more orange there. And then over the other side, just put that in roughly. And a little bit of the dark. That's a bit too dark because it's in the distance, so tone that down with Payne's Grey. Everything in the distance will be desaturated because daylight is blue. Let's put a bit of that over here as well just to harmonise it. Because daylight is blue, things in the distance will appear more blue and things in the foreground will always appear more saturated. So I'm going to go for it with the grass now. So as you can see, we're paler back here, so I'm going to go orange and this pale yellow and see what happens. Well, that's nice. You can always veer off the colours. You could do what you like, really. If you want to completely change the colours around, you can. Let's have a bit of green in there. I normally have these in a holder, so they're sliding around a bit. And now as we come down this way, we're going into the realms of much more green. That's too blue, that green. So we want the yellow green more in there. Let's use some of this. Right, so I'm going to desaturate that. That's better. The grey works as a cooling down colour. And I've got some highlighted areas. Mix some orange and light yellow. And then we just roughly bring all that down here to this quite vibrant yellow green. A little bit in there. So you can be quite rough at the beginning, just by, you can come back and refine later. Right, so I fast forwarded a little bit and just done a little bit more on the trees off camera, but now I'm going to try to cover the rest of the painting area. So I'm going to finish off this grass and try and get as much of the area covered with basic colour, so we're getting a better idea of the painting as a whole. There's also a colourless blender which I've got here, which is quite good, just spreading the pan pastel around, lets it flow a little better. You've got larger areas, that's quite useful. I'll go back to that green afterwards and work and refine that. I'm just going to go up here a little bit because we've got, you can get rid of bits you don't really want. So I'm just trying to line that up with that a little bit more. Again, we can work on that later. What I really want to do is get my sky in. I have to get another applicator. Okay, so I'm going to go for ultramarine blue and a touch of pale yellow, and I'm going to go in, cover bulk of my sky. Got some colourless blender. Oh. The sky's got a bit of a sweep going that way. More of this pale yellow because it's a little bit purpley. Oh, paper keeps slipping. I'm not used to working flat, I'm used to working upright on the easel, but I thought this might be a good way of showing everybody. So yes, so there's a little bit, this on its own is a little bit, the ultramarine is a little bit purpley. I think that's okay, it'll do. So just keep going up in that sweeping movement. I'm going to just put in some lighter patches as I go. Again, my main reason for doing this is to get all of the sky in. We can work on the finer detail, if indeed we're going to go for finer detail. We can go for that as we go afterwards. It's a little bit yellow, isn't it? Some pale blue. And as I come down towards the trees is where the real business of, so that's quite turquoisey there, so I'm going to add a little bit of green. You don't have to paint the colours as is, but if you want to, you've just got to go, right, what sort of blue is it I'm looking at? This is more purpley blue, this is more greeny blue, so obviously we can just add a little touch of green in there. If that's indeed what you want to do, you could just stick with the, I think using the green just reflects a little bit more in the colour you're looking at in the rest of the painting, which will harmonise it. So you're reflecting colours off of each other. So when I get down to the trees here, I'm going to start putting in some sky holes. Cutting in with the sky colour to form the shape of the trees and foliage. At the same time trying to keep that sweeping feel. And as you'll see here, you've got lots of little sky holes going on, so we just put those in. You can always correct if your tree, you want to refine your tree shape. It gives it some movement, this sweeping of the sort of cloudy, hazy cloud. Go for some colourless blender, sweep all that across. Again, let's get down here and shape our trees. Oh, that's a bit dark. Down to this bit, you can change top of your tree line. Generally the sky does get lighter. Higher up it goes, the darker blue it'll be, and the lower down it'll be a lighter. Oops, more towards the horizon you get, it becomes lighter. So you could adjust your tree line and cut into your trees to shape the foliage. That's the more fiddly end, finer detail bits that you're going to be doing. Oops. Let's wipe this off. And then again, we're trying to match colours here, so try and get the shape of that tree there. Again, you've got some sky holes going on there. Over here, let's lighten this side. Against the horizon of the top of the trees. To go lighter. The advantage of working on, you heard me just blow on there. The advantage of working upright on an easel is that all your dust will drop down. Right, let's go in here with this trees in the background. Tree line rather, I should say. The background, and then there. Got some more blue sky going on here. Try and get a little bit more definition to the tree shape here. Try and make that a bit wispy. So I'm going to carry on with trying to get the fine details around the trees and the tree line now. Just trying to sort of replicate these branches a little bit here. I'm going to do the same over this side. Try to break up that tree line a little bit. Keeping that sweeping feeling, which is hazy clouds. So now it's just all about the fine details. Here we've got a little bit of, see, although, you know, I was saying earlier about the distance being sort of bluer, I'm going to keep these colours in. I know they're warmer. I just feel they represent this. You know, I could start muting them down, try and get realism, but I'm not worried about realism. If I think something looks nice, then I'll leave it as is. This isn't about realism. Realism, obviously, when I'm doing my horses and dogs, is important, but no, I will turn that down. That's a bit too orange. That's better. Faithful, trusty Baines Grey to tone things down. Go back in there with a little bit of shadow in here. Right, let's have a little go at, I think that's quite pink back there. I've added in a bit of magenta onto that, a bit more light yellow. And then we've got very, very bright green in here. Lost the little tree trunk a bit there. So we'll put that back in. If I can find the one I used. Oh, that's gone a bit too far, but that doesn't matter because we can just snip that off at the bottom. There, like that, that's it. Constantly reinstating any bits I lose that I need. Back in dark and define some dark parts. Again, this isn't about perfection. It's more about feeling and general impressionism, for me anyway. I'm just gonna, I don't get dust like this when I'm working on the easel, so, but I'm doing it this flat so that you can see straight ahead on what I'm doing. That's just a bit of a better view, but yeah, definitely working at the easel. It's a much better way of working. Try both, see how you get on, but certainly for dust, much better to work upright. Do a little bit more work on this grass now. So the grass is also having this sort of sweeping effect. Green and orange. A bit of light yellow. I'm probably not going to go detailed on the grass. I think that's probably going to be fine like that. For this purpose, it's, you know, if you're going to have a go at this, I'm going to put a still of this in the video, and you can stop the video and you can screenshot it. I'm quite happy for you to do that and have a go at painting it yourself. Let me know how you get on with it. Yes, so meanwhile I'm just going to continue on with just trying to get a little bit more detail on the foliage. So I'm just trying to get the highlights now. Oh, I can't blow that. Even lighter green. Let's have a go with that. Oh yeah, that's so this is bright yellow green. That's also bright yellow green, but that's the shade. Bright yellow green shade. So for our highlights, we'll go with the lighter. You see that's starting to come to life a bit there. Just random. I think I probably have used all the colours that I put out. Normally I'm just working from my holders, which have all my colours in, and if I see other colours that I want to use, then I go ahead and use them. So for me, this is, you know, it's almost like a limited palette. Let's break up the bottom of those trees a little bit. Getting a bit overloaded now, so let's wipe that off and come back in with some and we've got some more. I think I'm going to go back to my dark and come in here with some just to accentuate the fact that that is in shade there. So dark purple, dark green. You can add little dots in here and there just to give it a bit of life. Comes to life, it gives it a bit of movement. So you can see this is gradually taking shape. So I'm just going to, I think, mute down the trees in the background a little bit. So I'm going to get some purple and some Payne's grey and just go in here, just mute it down a little bit just to get that sense of distance, remembering what I said about everything in the distance being having a bluer, lighter bluer hue. I think that would be enough. I don't want to lose the sense of that colour, so just tone it down a little bit. There we go. Just lighten it a little bit because things aren't as dark in the distance. Yeah, happy with that. That's a bit better, I think. Just make it a little less detailed as well, because yeah, it's not meant to be realism. So a few more little wisps of cloud here. To lighten this bit here up a little bit. That gives a bit of contrast against the trees there as well. More sky holes. A bit lighter towards the top of the trees there. Right, let's leave that for a minute and go somewhere else. So I think I'm going to do something a little bit more here, make that a little bit more pink. You can see pink. So this is like a pale orange. Oh, actually, it might be orange. Let's have a look. Oh, it's actually pale orange. So it's orange tint. Okay, so let's add a little bit of pink to that. Yeah, there we go. Just blend that down into the grass. Over this side, with a bit of pink, pinky orange, a bit lighter than that, we want it. Going on there. Oops, and then here we're going to back to our light yellow greens. A bit more orange. And just to bring a little bit of highlight, go a bit lighter there. Some highlights into it just by using this pale orange. Just bring that grass to life a little bit. A bit more over here. Break up the edges of that shadow a little bit. To put a bit of that shadow back in. Just want to go back in again with my dark purple and green here. Break up the edges. stand back and have a little look. And normally I do this at the easel, so I would stand back from the easel, have a good look at it like that. It's a little bit more difficult from above this way. I'm just going to go back. I just want to add a couple of touches of my tree trunky effect in here. Tree trunk, branches. That's it. I'm going to just break up the line of that a little bit there. There. Whoops. That's it. I think I'm getting the effect I want a bit more now. Just going to break up that tree line a little bit there. Let's see if we can just break up this line a little bit here. Get rid of that line. Soften it. And the pan pastels give a very painterly effect, so very much like oils, using pan pastels on their own. And although I love painting in oils, I find it, you know, messy and all the clear up and everything. So I like to use pan pastels because there's no clean up or drying time. And so you get a nice painterly effect, as you can see, but sometimes people like a little bit more definition on things, so you can go over the top of this quite easily with a pastel. I'm not going to do that, but you can try it. I'm not going to do that with this. I'm going to leave it, I think I'm going to leave it as is, as I think I might do some more to it, but I think for now that gives you a really good idea of what I mean, I could, you know, I could go on and on, but then you're going into the realms of overworking it. At the moment, you know, I mean, I'm looking, I can see a lot more sky holes to go in on where the trees are, and I could continue on. I probably would continue on very, very subtly. I wouldn't do too much more to it, but I'm going to leave it there for now, and I shall put a still. I shall put a still. I'll take a good still photo of this and add that still in on the video so you can see it. So there's my final painting. I've avoided overworking it. Probably could do with a little bit more done to it, but I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave it at that. It gives you an idea, hopefully, of how to use pan pastels, and feel free to take a screenshot of the still that I'll put in of the original photo that I took, and use it and have a go, and yeah, let me know how you get on.